My name is Aaron Blake. I'm 33 years old. And 3 months ago, I collapsed during a federal trial. I remember gripping the edge of the table as my vision blurred. I was trying to finish a closing statement I'd rewritten twice in the past 24 hours. I remember the judge calling for a recess as the room spun, and I hit the floor. The next thing I knew, I was in a hospital bed with an IV in my arm, a saline drip overhead, and a nurse telling me I'd pushed too far. Severe exhaustion, dehydration, burnout. The people who claimed to love me most, they didn't show up. Not a call, not a visit, not even a voicemail. What I got instead was a meme from my mother, some dancing cat gif she'd found funny, and a text from my brother that read, "Hey, can you still pay for my car insurance this week? It's due Friday." This wasn't a one-time oversight. This was a pattern. My mother always said she was emotionally sensitive to stress. My father said he wasn't good in hospitals. And Josh. He'd been the center of the family since he was born. Every emergency was his, every sacrifice mine. But what none of them knew, what they couldn't possibly imagine, was that the moment I opened my eyes in that hospital bed, I started planning, quietly, carefully. I began documenting everything, the transfers, the messages, the forgotten birthdays, the fake apologies. I wasn't out for revenge. I was done begging for decency. What I wanted was something simple: respect, boundaries, and peace. They thought I was still the reliable one, still the wallet, still the daughter who would always come through. They were wrong. Subscribe now, because by the time they realized the truth, I already owned everything they needed. To really understand what happened, you have to go back. Not to the hospital or the courtroom, but to the beginning. Back to a house with beige walls, a loud refrigerator, and a girl who learned way too early how to carry more than just her backpack. Growing up, I was the responsible one, not because I wanted to be, but because someone had to be. My mom used to say it like a compliment. "Erin's got it handled." She always does. But what she meant was, we're tired, and she's convenient. I was 10 the first time I put my little brother Josh to sleep, while my mom curled up in the living room claiming a migraine. I remember rocking him in my lap, feeling strangely proud when he stopped crying. That's when she started saying it. "You're the grown-up one. You've got this." That phrase never left me. By 11, I was cooking dinner on school nights. By 13, I was picking Josh up from daycare and microwaving mac and cheese while my dad ranted in the garage about how society was falling apart. He didn't have a job back then, not really. He called himself a freelance consultant, but all I ever saw him do was tinker with things that didn't need fixing and complain about liberals. My mom stopped working when I was in middle school. She said her office was too toxic, that she had emotional sensitivity to chaotic environments. What that meant, in practice, was that she spent most of her time online, in forums, or binge-watching true crime documentaries. When bills came in, she'd sigh dramatically and say things like, "If only we had help." And then look at me. At 14, I missed my best friend's birthday party because Josh had a fever and my mom couldn't be left alone with a sick child. I'd picked out a gift and everything. I sat at the window that night, scrolling through pictures of kids eating cake at the bowling alley, while Josh cried because his soup was too hot and Mom yelled at me to fix it. He wasn't mean. He was just a kid. But so was I. No one seemed to notice. Fast forward to college. I worked 2 jobs campus tutoring and a weekend shift at a bookstore. Every dollar went toward tuition. When Josh turned 19, he dropped out of his sophomore year after 1 semester. My parents called it a necessary break, said he was finding his passion. I asked what that passion was, and my mom said, "Don't pressure him. He's sensitive." I remember being 23 and fresh out of grad school. My first job in a nonprofit legal office barely paid anything, but I was proud. I bought my own microwave. I slept on a mattress on the floor for 2 years. When I tried to talk about it, my mom said, "Well, things always come easier to you." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because I didn't know how to explain working 70-hour weeks wasn't easy. It was just necessary. Then the financial requests started, small at first. "Josh needs a little help with rent. Can you cover the utilities just this once? Mom had a doctor's visit. We're short this month." It was never one big ask. It was 1,000 tiny ones, drip by drip. I kept a spreadsheet at first, just to stay organized. That was before I realized I was subsidizing 3 adults who all believed they were victims of their own lives. Over 5 years, I sent more than $120,000. I know because I checked again last month. Mortgage payments, health insurance premiums, Josh's online course in crypto investing that turned out to be a YouTube playlist with an upcharge. And it wasn't just money. I gave time. I gave attention. I canceled 2 vacations because Mom had a breakdown and needed support. I stopped dating for a while because every night was some new mini-crisis. Josh couldn't figure out how to file taxes. Dad needed help disputing a charge on his credit card. Mom needed emotional backup on her latest feud with the HOA. They never said thank you. They said things like, "You're so stable. You've got it together," which is code for, "We expect you to keep holding this." Still, I kept waiting for the moment it would feel worth it, for them to say something kind. Anything. One time I landed a major client deal, my first solo win at the firm. I called my mom, told her with excitement. Her response, "That's great, honey. Oh, while I have you, do you remember our Netflix login?" That's when it started sinking in. They didn't see me. They saw what I could provide. Still, I didn't pull away. Not completely. I figured maybe they were just bad at expressing things. Maybe love came differently in my family. But then the collapse happened, and they had a choice. One of their own was in a hospital, barely conscious, hooked to a machine, and they didn't come. They didn't even ask if I was okay. That was the moment everything shifted. Not loudly, not with a fight, just a quiet click in my brain. A door locking from the inside. I stopped explaining, stopped replying right away, stopped sending money without asking what it was for. And not a single person noticed. Not one message asking, "Hey, are you okay?" Only reminders, only Venmo requests, only silence where there should have been love. So I started building something different, not for them, for me. It started with a list. Nothing dramatic, just a cheap notebook I grabbed from my kitchen drawer the night I got home from the hospital. I sat on the couch, still wearing the oversized hoodie I'd worn home, my hospital bracelet still tight around my wrist. The fridge buzzed in the background. A familiar sound that suddenly felt comforting in its constancy. Unlike everything else in my life, it didn't ask me for anything. I opened the notebook and started writing. Not feelings, not poetry, numbers. How much I'd paid toward my parents' mortgage. How many car payments I'd made for Josh. How many emergencies I'd funded without question. Each line made me feel a little colder, a little clearer. There was no anger, not yet, just realization and exhaustion. Deep, permanent exhaustion, not from overwork, but from carrying people who had never once looked down to see how much I was struggling. When I finished the list, I flipped to a new page and wrote one sentence in all caps. "I do not owe anyone my life." And from that moment on, I started changing things. Quietly. I didn't confront anyone. I didn't send dramatic texts or make angry calls. That would have just given them more room to manipulate. I simply stopped. I rerouted my direct deposit into a new account. I canceled the auto transfers linked to my parents' bills. I turned off notifications from the family group chat. And I waited. It took exactly 5 days for the first ripple to hit. Josh messaged, "Hey, Tess, my car payment bounced. Did you change cards?" I didn't respond. 12 hours later, sis hello. Then came a meme from Mom, something about family always being there for each other. No caption, just the picture, as if guilt was a language I still spoke. But they still hadn't noticed the change in tone, the silence. They just assumed I'd circle back around like always. That week, I went to work like normal. I finished a draft for a major client, closed a case, and booked a massage for the first time in 4 years. I didn't tell anyone. It felt too sacred to share. At night, I began researching asset protection. I wasn't looking to destroy them. I just wanted to make sure they couldn't reach me financially again. I called a financial advisor I trusted, someone I'd met through a mutual client. We set up a plan, new accounts, legal firewall, credit freezes. She asked why I was doing all this. I just smiled and said, "It's time I stopped being everyone's safety net." But then came the message that forced everything into motion. 3 days later, I was walking back from a yoga class when my phone lit up. It was a message from my father. "Call now. Mom's had a heart episode. She's in bed. She needs you. Don't wait." I stopped walking. The word episode hung there like a trap. I hadn't heard from either of them since I left the hospital, except for scattered payment reminders. And now suddenly, when I wasn't available, when I wasn't responding, they were worried. I called. He picked up immediately. "Aaron," he said, voice low. "She's not doing well. Her blood pressure's been spiking. She's pale. She thought she lost you. She's been crying all week." I didn't say anything. "You need to come, please." I don't know why I got in the car. Maybe it was habit. Maybe it was guilt. Or maybe it was that tiny voice that still whispered, "What if this time it's real?" When I arrived, the house was quiet. My dad opened the door. His expression was grim. Josh was seated by Mom's bedside, playing the role of the concerned son. She looked weak, pale, wrapped in a blanket, her voice barely audible. "Aaron," she said, reaching for my hand, "I thought I lost you." For a second, I believed it. Her skin felt cold. Her eyes looked tired. I sat with her, made her tea, even bought her new slippers the next day. I rearranged their kitchen cabinets, picked up groceries. I sent $120 for her medication when she said insurance wouldn't cover it. It almost felt like peace, like maybe something had changed, like maybe the silence had gotten through. Until one morning, 5 days later, I stopped by a bakery near my apartment and ran into Mrs. Dalton, my parents' upstairs neighbor. She smiled, asked how I was doing, then casually said, "Your mom looked great last Friday. I saw her at the makeup aisle in Target. Said she finally had a day to herself." My stomach dropped. "Last Friday," I asked. "Evening." "Oh yeah, around 6. The place was packed." That was the exact time I'd arrived at the house. The same evening she'd been unable to sit up. The night they'd said she was too weak to move. I drove home in a haze. I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Could she have faked it? Could they all have orchestrated a lie just to reel me back in? Maybe she got better fast. Maybe she was just putting on a brave face. I told myself that until that night. I was in their kitchen putting dishes away when I heard Josh talking on the phone in the hallway. "Whew." He laughed. "That was close. Thought she was going to actually cut us off. But nope, she came back. Mom should have gone into acting. Even I believed her." There was a pause, then another laugh. "Anyway, we're good now. Aaron's back." I froze. In that moment, I didn't feel rage. I didn't even feel hurt. Just an eerie stillness, like the inside of a snow globe after you stop shaking it. I stepped into the hallway. Josh saw me. His face went white. "Aaron," he stammered. "Hey, what's up?" I looked at him for a long time. He opened his mouth again, but I didn't let him finish. "Tell Mom and Dad," I said, calm and even, "that they really sold it. Great performance." Then I walked out. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't say goodbye. I drove home in silence. I didn't cry. Something in me had snapped clean. Not violently, just finally. That night, I didn't fall apart. I made a plan. For the first time in my life, it wasn't about helping anyone else. It wasn't about making peace or proving my worth. It was about building something that belonged entirely to me. I opened my laptop, pulled up my old finance tracker, and started rewriting my life. First step, isolation. I cut off every shared account. I switched out every password I knew they had access to streaming services, my Amazon Prime, even the family cell phone plan I'd been covering for 6 years. I paid the cancellation fees and closed the credit card I'd once added Josh to as an emergency user. No warning, just a clean break. Second step, evidence. I sorted through 5 years of text threads, emails, screenshots, bank statements. I organized everything into labeled folders. Transfers, emotional blackmail, fake emergencies, gaslighting. I wasn't hoarding proof out of pettiness. I needed to see it clearly, to make it real, because when you grow up around manipulation, you start questioning your own memory. But documents don't lie. Third step, protection. I hired a lawyer. I told her the basics: family, financial abuse, emotional strain. She didn't flinch. She'd seen it before. We drafted a letter reclaiming partial ownership of the apartment I'd helped my parents buy 5 years ago, $40,000 of my money, under the promise of keeping it in the family. But my name was still technically on the deed, so we moved forward. I also filed a cease and desist against Josh. He'd been texting me nonstop, everything from guilt trips to vague threats about ruining family unity. My lawyer sent the letter that Friday. It worked. He went quiet. And while all of that was unfolding, something else was happening, something unexpected. I was starting to breathe again. I was sleeping through the night, waking up without dread. I went back to yoga, started seeing a therapist twice a month, and finally accepted the offer to lead a major client litigation team. It was something I'd turned down twice before, too afraid it would stretch me thin. But now I was free. In 6 months, I paid off the last of my student loans. I refinanced my condo and started putting money into an investment account. I bought a standing desk. I even painted my kitchen cabinets navy blue. It sounds ridiculous, but it mattered because, for once, I wasn't just surviving. I was designing my life. Meanwhile, the messages from my parents shifted from passive-aggressive to panicked. "Aaron, this silence is cruel. Family is everything. Josh made mistakes, but he's your brother. Your father hasn't slept in weeks." Not once did they ask how I was doing. Not once did they apologize. But things really escalated when the financial pressure hit them, because without me paying for things behind the scenes, reality finally caught up. Josh's car was repossessed. He posted about it on Instagram, blaming the system. Their mortgage went overdue by 2 months. My mom sent me a photo of a shut-off notice taped to their front door with the caption, "Hope you're happy." That one stung, but not for the reason they thought. It stung because even now, after everything, they still believed I was responsible for fixing the mess they'd created. But by then, I'd changed. I wasn't the girl who said yes out of guilt. I was a woman who'd spent the last decade building a career in litigation, who now had a team of paralegals, a growing portfolio, and more leverage than they could comprehend. And then, something I hadn't anticipated happened. People started noticing. One night at a professional networking event, a senior partner I'd admired for years pulled me aside and said, "You're not just good, you're controlled. You're calm under fire. That's what wins trials." The next morning, I was offered a promotion full partner, equity stake, 6-figure signing bonus. I remember staring at the email, blinking, wondering if it was a mistake. But it wasn't. I'd earned it. Word got around. LinkedIn updates, celebratory posts, emails from colleagues and former classmates. I even got flowers from someone I barely remembered meeting at a conference 2 years ago. And that's when the shift happened. Suddenly, my parents wanted back in. Josh sent a voice memo. "Hey sis, congrats on the new title. That's really cool. Listen, I've got this business idea I've been working on. Would love your input. Maybe even an investment. Let's talk." My mom emailed me a picture of our family from 10 years ago with the subject line, "Don't forget who was there before the money." My dad called and left a voicemail. "We're proud of you. Let's rebuild. Come to dinner. Just us." But it wasn't pride. It was panic. Because they'd finally realized what they'd lost. Not just the money, the control. The Aaron they knew obedient, available, easily guilted didn't exist anymore. I didn't respond. Not at first. I wasn't ready to speak. I was still building. But in the background, I was preparing for something much bigger. Something they never saw coming. It started with a party invitation. A cousin I hadn't seen in years was getting married, big ceremony, huge guest list, black tie only, the kind of event where the whole extended family would be there, smiling politely while counting scandals in the background. I almost threw it away. But then I realized this was the stage. Everyone in one place. No distractions, no excuses. It was time. But I didn't go in blind. I prepared. First, I had my legal ducks in a row. The apartment deed finalized. I now legally owned 40% of the property my parents were defaulting on. I'd filed a motion to reclaim it through a quiet title suit. It wasn't messy, just methodical. They'd ignored the certified mail. That was their mistake. Second, I printed everything. Neatly bound folders, copies of every transfer I'd made over the last 5 years, every Venmo, every guilt-laced email and text. On the front of each folder, I wrote in simple black ink, for context. Third, I made a decision. I wouldn't scream. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't shame. I would simply reveal the truth. So I showed up. I wore a navy blue gown, the same color I'd painted my kitchen cabinets when I first started rebuilding. It felt like armor. When I walked into the reception hall, heads turned. I'd lost weight. I was glowing not from makeup, but from rest, from peace, from being done. Josh saw me first. He smiled like nothing had happened. "Aaron, you look amazing." I nodded. "You still have my number?" I asked. He laughed. Confused, "Yeah." "Good, because you're going to need it." I handed him a folder and walked away. Next was my mother. She looked surprised, almost nervous. "Sweetheart, I didn't think you'd come." I handed her the folder without a word. She opened it, read the first page, and paled. My father tried to intervene. "What is this?" he asked, flipping through it. "Receipts," I said. "Every dollar, every favor, every time you told me family meant sacrifice and then sent a bill." People were starting to notice. Heads turned, whispers spreading like wildfire. My aunt walked up. "Is everything okay?" I smiled. "I'm just returning some history." Then I walked to the mic. The DJ had just finished announcing the father-daughter dance. There was a pause. I took the microphone before he could cue the music. "I won't take long," I said calmly, "but I've spent years being misrepresented by the people who were supposed to protect me. So just for tonight, I'd like to clarify a few things." The room went still. "I'm Aaron Blake. I'm the one who paid the bills, who kept the lights on, who covered medical premiums and grocery runs and car repairs and late-night emergencies that never seemed to end. And I was never thanked, just expected." Murmurs began. I saw relatives whispering, eyebrows raised. But the truth always finds its way out. So for those who've been told I abandoned my family, I'd like to share a few facts. I gestured to a small table where I'd quietly stacked copies of the folder. Take one, read it, make up your own mind. I stepped away from the mic. The DJ didn't move. No one did. My mom tried to speak. This isn't the time. I turned. No. The time was the day I collapsed in a courtroom and no one showed up. The time was every time you used me until I broke. This is overdue. Then I walked out. I didn't stay for cake. I didn't need to. What happened next spread faster than I expected. By the next morning, my cousin texted me, "Half the family is talking about your receipts. Everyone's asking if it's real." I didn't respond. That afternoon, Josh called. I let it ring. Then a voicemail came through. "Aaron, I didn't know it was that bad. I thought you were just successful. I didn't realize what it cost you." I deleted it. 3 days later, a notice was posted on the front door of my parents' house, notice of intent to transfer partial ownership. They were stunned. My mom emailed me a photo of the letter and wrote, "How could you do this to your own family?" I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I didn't do this to my family. I stopped letting my family do it to me. They tried to fight it, of course. Claimed I'd agreed it was a gift. But the paper trail told a different story. Emails with subject lines like, "We'll pay you back eventually. Just for now. Okay, you're our rock, we're lucky you're stable." All of it was admissible. The judge ruled in my favor. I became a legal co-owner of the property, which meant they couldn't refinance, couldn't sell, couldn't take out loans, not without my signature. Suddenly, I had leverage. I didn't use it recklessly. I gave them 6 months to sort things out, to sell the property or buy me out. They didn't, and so I filed for forced sale. The house went on the market that winter. They were furious, said I'd humiliated them. But what they didn't say, what they couldn't say, was that I was wrong. Because I wasn't. I'd spent a decade trying to earn their respect by sacrificing myself. Now, I'd earned my peace by protecting it. They lost the house that spring. I didn't show up for the move. They didn't ask me to. And honestly, that silence finally felt honest. The property sold at market value. I received my portion, $162,000, after legal fees. I used part of it to pay off the last of my condo renovations. The rest I put into an investment account, under a trust I named after my grandmother, the only person in that entire family who ever saw me clearly. My parents moved into a 2-bedroom rental on the edge of town, the kind of place that doesn't come with granite countertops or a garden view. They told the neighbors it was temporary. I'm sure the story has evolved a dozen times by now. Josh crashed with them for a while, then moved in with a friend, then a girlfriend, then back again. The cycle he's always known. I don't check in. I don't check up. They have their version of events, and I have mine. The difference is, mine comes with receipts. But more importantly, it comes with peace. And that peace is priceless. I spend my mornings now in ways I used to only dream about. I swim 3 days a week. I read fiction again. I drink my coffee slowly black, from the ceramic mug I bought during the first month of my reset, the one I used to think was a splurge. Now, it feels like a symbol. Not of money. Of self-respect. I see friends regularly, real friends. People who don't just reach out when they need a favor. We have dinner on Tuesdays. Rotate apartments. Sometimes we talk about work. Sometimes we sit in silence and just exist without needing to prove anything. I don't tell everyone what happened. Not because I'm hiding it, but because it's not the most interesting thing about me anymore. I still get the occasional message from relatives, usually around holidays. Family isn't perfect. We all make mistakes. Your mom still hopes you'll come around. I read them. I don't respond. Because this was never about perfection. It was about boundaries. And learning that love, real love, doesn't demand you shrink yourself. It doesn't guilt you into silence. It doesn't tally what you owe and forget what you gave. It's quiet. It's respectful. It's mutual. What I have now isn't flashy. It's not viral or dramatic or Instagram perfect. It's just mine. My peace, my time, my space. There's a quote I keep on my fridge. I wrote it the night I walked away from my family's house. You are not selfish for wanting to be treated with respect. You are not cruel for asking to be considered. If I could go back and speak to the girl who first opened that notebook, the one with tired eyes and a hospital wristband, I'd tell her, you are not broken. You are just finally done carrying what was never yours. And now you get to live. If any part of this story felt familiar to you, if you've ever been the one who kept everything running while everyone else took you for granted, if you've ever had to walk away from the people who said they loved you but only showed up when they needed something, then leave a comment below. Share your story. You're not alone and you're not wrong for wanting peace. And if you're still in it, still climbing out of that fog, just know, your freedom doesn't need anyone's permission. It's been almost 2 years now. 2 years since the wedding, since the folders, since I stopped playing a role I never auditioned for. And here's the truth, nothing dramatic has happened since. No fiery confrontations, no surprise apologies, no family reconciliations over coffee and tears. Just distance, and quiet, and the slow, beautiful work of building a life that doesn't revolve around damage control. I moved. Nothing flashy, just a sunlit corner condo in a quieter part of town. There's a little balcony where I keep 3 plants. I don't even know their names. I just water them and watch them grow. It sounds boring, but it's the kind of boring I used to dream about. My work's different now, too. I still litigate, but I've pulled back on volume. I mentor junior associates. I guest lecture once a month at a local law school. Talking to students who still believe in justice is surprisingly healing. One of them asked me recently, "What made you want to be a lawyer?" And for the first time, I didn't talk about giving back or serving people. I said, I got tired of people lying and getting away with it. They laughed. I smiled, but I meant every word. Because that's really what this story was about. Not revenge, not even justice. Truth. Learning to trust my version of it, to believe my memory, my instincts, my limits. It's funny, when I was younger, I thought peace would feel like applause, like being finally seen by everyone who ignored me. But real peace feels like closing a door and realizing you don't need anyone on the other side to understand why you walked away. I haven't spoken to my family since the property sale went through, not directly. Josh tagged me in an Instagram post once, some vague quote about people who forget where they came from. I blocked him. My mother sent a birthday card last year, blank inside, except for one sentence written in blue ink. There's still time. I didn't reply, because the truth is, they had years. Years of me showing up, fixing things, paying their bills, bending myself into whatever shape they needed. And they only noticed me when I disappeared. That's not love. That's convenience. And I'm no longer available for that. Instead, I've made space for people who don't need convincing to treat me with respect. Friends who show up because they want to, not because they want something. A partner who doesn't see my success as a threat or a bank account. Who asks how I'm doing and waits for the answer. My circle is smaller now. But it's real. And in that space, I've become someone I actually like. Not just accomplished, not just productive, whole. Every now and then, someone asks if I ever miss them, my family, the birthdays, the holidays, the traditions. And the honest answer, no. I miss the idea of what I thought they could be. I miss the version of them I kept waiting for. But the real people, I let go of them a long time ago. Because life is short, energy is finite. And the older I get, the more I believe this. Love without accountability isn't love. Family without boundaries isn't family. And sacrifice without recognition isn't noble. It's theft. So if you're still in it, if you're still carrying the weight of everyone else's comfort while setting yourself on fire, just to keep the peace, please hear this. You're not selfish for putting it down. You're not cruel for saying no. You're not broken for walking away from people who only love you when it's easy. You're allowed to choose yourself, and not just once every single day. If this story hit home for you, if you've ever been the one who was expected to keep giving until there was nothing left, share your story in the comments. Your voice matters. Your peace matters. And somewhere, someone needs to hear that it's okay to start over. Because starting over isn't the end. It's the beginning of finally living on your own terms.